Hi, Kita Gimel. This is Yonit again, and I am going to continue with the Passover story. This is part two. We left part one when Moses had fled Egypt. He had killed the Egyptian taskmaster, and he feared that Pharaoh was going to kill him, and so he ran away, reminding us maybe of Jacob running away when Esau had threatened to kill him, and Moses is now in the land of Midian, and we left the story. He had just sat down beside a well, and we know when there's a well that there's going to be romance. So let's continue the story there. Now there was a priest in Midian who had 7 daughters. They came to the well to draw water and to water their father's flock. But shepherds came and drove them off. Moses rose to their defense, and he watered their flock. When they returned to their father, he asked, "Why are you back so soon?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds." You may wonder, why did the shepherds drive them off? I think there's a little more detail in the Torah. Basically, the well has a cover on it, and it's hard to push off. And so the shepherds are a little lazy, and they only want to do it once. And so they want to wait for everyone to come and gather, and then they'll push it off and everybody will get the water. But if you're there earlier, you have to wait. And so Moses is intervening so that these 7 daughters can get the water. He can get the water they needed for their flock and help them, because he's strong enough to push the stone off, and the 7 daughters are not. Okay, so so these 7 daughters tell their father that an Egyptian rescued them from the shepherds, and they view Moses as an Egyptian because he's dressed as an Egyptian. And their father says, "Where is he then? Ask him to come eat with us." So Moses came and agreed to stay with the man, and Moses married Zipporah, one of the daughters. It's Zipporah. It's with a tzadi, and we've actually read this word in one of our checkoffs, tzipor or tzipporah. It means bird. The father's name is not given here, but his name is Yitro, and he is an important figure in this story, and he gets a little section of the Torah named, he gets like a chapter name after him. And he's going to give good advice as he goes along. He's very respected. So Moses marries Zipporah, one of the daughters, and she has a son whom Moses names Gershom, for I have been a stranger in a strange land. And Ger means live, and Sham lives there. Like, you're not living here, you're not living in your home, you're living there, you're a stranger there. And the word actually for stranger, one of the words is ger, like in the Torah when they talk about whether a law might apply to just the Jewish people or to strangers in their midst. They often use the word ger. A long time later, the Pharaoh died. The Israelites still suffered under forced labor and hardship, and they cried out. Now, God hasn't figured very much in this story so far. We know the midwives feared God, but other than that, we haven't heard about him. Or God, I shouldn't say him, because remember, God does not have a gender. And in this story, at this point, God hears the cries of the people, and God remembers his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and God took notice of them. Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, Yitro, the father. Jethro is how we say it in English, his father-in-law, and he took the flock into the wilderness. An angel of God appeared to him in a blazing fire out of a bush. Moses gazed at the bush, all aflame, but the bush was not consumed. Moses stopped in wonder, why does this bush not burn up? When God saw that Moses had stopped to pay attention to the bush, God called out to him, Moses, Moses. And one of the things that there's a lot of discussion about is this idea that there are amazing things happening all the time, perhaps, and it's up to us to pay attention and to notice. And one of the things that's special about Moses is that he stopped to pay attention. And so we can guess how Moses responds. How does one respond when you say, here I am, I'm paying attention, I'm ready? He says, Hineni, here I am. And God told Moses, do not come any closer. Remember, we have this whole back and forth about how Moses and God are going to relate. This is before the golden calf, before we're told that God and Moses talked face to face or interacted face to face, and that no human can see God face to face. Before we have all that, we have this, and we're still figuring out how Moses and God are going to have their relationship. And so, and this is really, I'm still figuring out where this is the beginning of them figuring it out. So, do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for this is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. God continued, I have noted the suffering of my people in Egypt, and I have come down to rescue them out of that land to a good land flowing with milk and honey, chalav udvash. I will send you to Pharaoh, and you shall free my people, the Israelites, from Egypt. So I'm going to stop there for part 2. So just imagine that you have been told, if you were Moses, you have been told that you're going to do this amazing thing. And like many people, Moses does not feel equal to this big task that he's just been given. So let's just imagine when we've been given something that feels like way too much for us to handle, and how we feel and how we react to that. And then we'll see how Moses and God work this out. All right, bye.